What's up, book lovers? I'm Stella and welcome to my channel. For this vlog, I'm going to be reading Taylor Jenkins Reid's Malibu Rising. Whew, that was a mouthful. I know that she's a very popular author and she has done a lot of books in the historical fiction space, but I've personally never read any of her books. I do know a couple of people that I know personally that love her books, and she comes very highly recommended by them. They've told me about something called the Readverse, wherein each of her books take place in the same universe and they kind of interconnect with each other. So I feel like that's gonna be interesting, and I'm excited to dive in to Malibu Rising. But I also do not know what to expect from this novel, because while I have read historical fictions before, particularly back in the day, historical romances, those were the only books at one point I would consume. In recent years, I haven't really read any historical fiction that doesn't involve magic in some way, shape, or form. So this one is going to be interesting because it is kind of contemporary in a sense that there's no magic at all involved. From what I understand of what Taylor Jenkins Reid's books are. That name is a mouthful, really. As for Malibu Rising, based on the summary that I've read, it's about 4 siblings who are famous and they throw a house party, and for some reason the house bursts into flames and there's going to be a huge fire in Malibu, and things are gonna, I don't know, spiral from there. So we'll see how that all ends up. So yeah, I'm very excited to start my reading vlog journey. I'm going to try to finish this book in a week, and so in this video I'll also be taking you throughout my days and see the sights of the city that I live in, and chill with me, and I'll update from time to time. So I may drop some spoilers, so if you haven't read the book, maybe this is not the reading vlog to watch, because I will be referring to a lot of events and I am a very reactive person, and so I expect to mention relevant scenes here and there when we get there. So yeah, let's dive into it. Okay, so I'm an hour and 30 minutes in, and first impressions off the bat, I can tell you right now that Taylor Jenkins Reid is a very good author. She's very good at establishing character and tension, and what I mean by that is that she obviously tells us about the Riva family and introduces the siblings, but girl goes on on the first few pages and introduces Nina, and then she name drops another character from one of her books, Carrie. And mind you, I've not read this other book, Carrie Soto is Back, but I do know that she's part of the Readverse and everything, and I did not know she was gonna name drop that person really early, or that character really early on. And it's not even just oh, I know her, we rub shoulders, whatever. No, it's this mom left me for Carrie Soto, and I'm just girl, what I did not realize that your Readverse was gonna be this messy, and this is just 5 pages in, crazy stuff. Then she moves on to introducing the other siblings, and they're apparently children of a famous singer. We get introduced to Jay and Kit. I mean, they seem like interesting characters. I don't know much about them yet, but then the mess comes up back again with HUD, and it's What are you doing? What are you doing being so messy? What do you mean you've been sneaking around Jay's back and doing the nasty? Okay? Like it's a lot. It's a lot for the first few chapters. But this is what I mean by establishing character, and she's got me hooked. Already invested in these like people that, you know, I've just met in the last few pages. And then we move on to the mother and the father, Mick and June. And I felt like their meet cute was really sweet, but the moment I read that Mick wanted to be a singer, I knew that shit was gonna go down and this man was gonna cheat the living daylights out of June. Okay? At least that's what I am assuming. And considering, you know, the celebrity culture, the rock star culture of, especially like what, the 50s? Oh my god. So yeah, like I definitely see it happening. Especially when Hudson like drops the bomb on being half brothers with Jay. So I know this man gonna cheat on our sweet girl June. So that tension gripped me, and this is why she's so good at establishing tension, because like from the hints that we've gotten from the future timeline and now the details that we know or we come to know in the past timeline, it's really gripping. I am very invested and like a little like nervous at the edge of my seat, because like the world's gonna fall on top of June. I just know it. I'm looking forward to reading more of what's gonna happen to the messy Riva family. I'm fuming. I'm fuming. I just got to the part where Mick leaves June for this other girl, Veronica, and oh my god, like I was right that he was gonna cheat on her. Girl, I knew it. Oh my god, like I feel so I don't feel vindicated. I feel really bad for June. He has the audacity to tell her that he's going to Paris with this other woman. Meanwhile, his wife is taking care of 3 children. 3? Oh my god, like mind-boggling. Like the audacity of this man. He kept justifying himself too. Like, this is why I'm fuming. I'm furious for her. And good on June for raising another woman's child, raising Hud like her own, but my god, she shouldn't have taken him back. She should not have, but I guess we gotta remember this is the 50s or 60s, so sexism here, you know? It's crazy how, just thinking about how this was so common back then too. I mean, don't get me wrong, guys cheat all the time in this day and age too. There was a scene where she wanted to change the locks to lock him out, and like the locksmith wouldn't even do that for her because she needed her husband's permission. Excuse me? This guy can't even change one child's diaper, okay? Oh my god, it's I am so riled up right now. It's insane. Oh my god. Like my head my head is so hot from the theory. Oh my god. And other things that make me thank the gods that I was not born in the 50s or the 60s, the blatant sexism. We're not even in the 80s. I picked up where I left off, and there was a scene where Nina goes to the restaurant that her mother ran, June ran with her parents, and she goes there, to greet the customers, fans, and stuff, and shake hands and blah blah blah. And what this family comes up to her and takes pictures with her and get an autograph, and then the dad runs his hands over her shirt. Sir, his wife was just right there. Oh my god. And happier parts of the book, I am a sucker for Jay and Lara's story. I just love it. Like, it's so cute. Like, and he's supposed to be like this bad boy playboy guy, and then he's got this like insane crush on this girl who's not, according to him, conventionally attractive. So I'm all for it. Okay, I am in for that sort of romance, so give me more of that. As for Kit, for now, I don't really have much of an impression of her. She's young. I'm assuming she's college age, so there's nothing much of note for me to really say about her. Right now, she's a little meh out of all the siblings. Obviously, Hudson is relieved to kind of find out that Jay has been crushing on a different girl. Maybe he's gotten over the betrayal that him and Ashley are doing or have done. Okay, so yeah, let's go back into it. Go back into the fray. Okay, so finally an update. I am just over 50% of the book, and a lot has happened. A lot has happened from where I left off earlier, and man, it's been heavy. These poor kids. Where this book really shines is the characterization of each character. The author is really good at making all of the characters, particularly the siblings, very likable. Each and every one of them have their own distinct personality, and so I'm enjoying the book so much because of that. One thing I gotta say as well is that I relate to Nina the most out of all of the characters. I really like Jay though, but with Nina, I am in the same situation as her, in a sense that I am also an older sister, and I also grew up, feeling like I have to be extra considerate about all of the things that happen in the family, and be more aware of what the people in my family need. And so Nina is someone I can relate to the most, and that's why I'm like the most drawn to her. I'm getting to see more of Kit now, and I can understand where she's at a little bit. She's obviously the younger sibling. All of her brothers and sister are in some way, successful in their own fields, and she's trying to find her place in the world. And because she's the youngest, you can also see from the flashbacks that she's always been held back, and I think that's like also a very universal sibling experience. You want to do the things that your older siblings want to do, but you can't. And because she's the younger sibling, she was also in a very unique situation in how she confronted their mother like that. There's the part in the book where we see June descend into depression and turn into alcoholism. And out of all of them, Kit was the only one who actually confronted June about it. I love how, like, the dynamics, you kind of see where they're actually at, with Jay and Hudson being the middle children, and Kit, going back to Kit being the youngest, and having this, like, fearlessness. But I also feel for her poor children, and June too. Not saying that, turning to alcoholism is the right thing to do in this situation, but she does have four children. In the 60s, wait, when was this? In the 60s? Yes, in the 60s, alone, a single mom. That's a lot. And I totally understand why she's, like, devolved and descended into this dark place. So, oh, that Mick, oh my god, he's such an, and he didn't even go to her funeral. It's crazy. I full on thought he would actually come back, because I kind of felt it that something would happen to June, because the kids are so young and, already orphaned very early on. You just don't know when. So I already anticipated that June would die one way or another. Not drowning for sure. That was not in any of my predictions. But when she died, and I was so heartbroken for the kids, for the siblings, but the dad never came, and I really full on thought that, he'd come and he'd be sorry and he'd take all of the kids under his wing, and that's how they kind of got into their fame. But no, didn't even come, like, at all. Didn't even show up to her burial, or her funeral. And then we get to the part where the kids have to make do, learn to survive, and then Nina having to take on the burden of being the parent of the three kids, and being a kid herself too. Oh my god, I can't imagine being in her position. Thank goodness she's pretty, and thank God for a pretty privilege, am I right? But I mean, not ragging on her, it makes sense. Like, we were told early on that she's, an attractive kid, and we know that she's a model, and she was discovered, and, it's not out of the realm of possibility during the 60s, and at that time, to be scouted by modeling agents and, become famous from there. But at the same time, it's good that the author also gives us the dark side of the industry, being a model, and how she couldn't eat all of the things she wanted, and how, she's been hypersexualized, and especially at that time, and it definitely happens still in this day and age. Not on her though, Nina's got a backbone. I really also like how each sibling highlights their own troubles, and now we see more of Hud as well. And for the life of me, I cannot dislike this guy, but I also am so anxious for when things go down between him and Jay, because he's gonna be confronting Jay. But then there was that situation in the car where he was gonna fess up, and then he backtracked and instead said that he would ask Ashley out, even though they'd been together behind Jay's back. Basically, Hud broke the bro code. Even worse, because he's his brother, he's Jay's brother. So I cannot see their relationship preparing so easily. I don't know, maybe this book will wrap up and everything's gonna be fine and dandy. This could also end in tragedy and everyone dies in this house party. I don't know, but yeah, I am very invested in what Hud is gonna do. Then we get to the part where Brandon comes home, and it's like deja vu. Mick, is that you in the form of a balding tennis player? Oh my god. So yeah, he comes back. I'm at the part where he comes to the party, or well, comes before the party starts, and tells Nina that he loves her and he wants her back. And then I stopped at part 2. And this is when the party is in full swing. I think we've finally caught up to the present timeline. So I don't think we'll be jumping back and forth to the past anymore in part 2. We'll see. And yeah, I can't wait. I really hope like no one dies in this, although that's kind of a fat chance. I can't believe Nina's taking Brandon back. At least I hope she's not. It feels like she's kind of taking him back. I'm not too sure. I'm finally at the part where Brandon comes back. He's begging her and asking for her forgiveness. And it kind of flashbacks to how the affair happened. And he is like, how are all or most of the men here so selfish? I can't believe he's justifying his infidelity. And oh my god, so it's all about him. And I guess I understand Nina's point of view where she couldn't really make a fuss in the middle of a party and all in front of all of those guests. Like, I feel like if I were put in that situation, I would just probably like also grin and bear it for a bit. But I don't know, it feels like she's going to let it happen. I mean, from a narrative standpoint, I feel like this is where her character growth will come. But man, she's a friggin' doormat. Like, and it's not even just any doormat. It's like the kind where you wipe your muddy boots on. I can't believe she's doing this. I'm so upset about that. Also, what do you mean she has a half sister? What do you mean Mick has another daughter? I guess it tracks. Rock stars or famous singers will have, had affairs with multiple women and probably will not always be that vigilant, but still. That really surprised me. I did not expect another sibling to just pop out in the woods. I keep thinking about how the fire's going to ignite, and I'm just waiting for the pin to drop at this point. So I'm gonna go back to reading. I only have a few hours left, and I should be done by my next update. So see you soon. Was that it? Was that it? Where's the fire? Where's the fire? I'd been bracing for it the entire book. And that's what we got. That's what we got. I really thought we'd get some tragedy. I was promised a raging fire, I swear. I was promised a raging fire. Where is it? Where's my fire? The fire was so hyped up. I really thought we'd get a tragedy, but there was a fire. Don't get me wrong. I read the book and I know she delivered a fire, but it was so anticlimactic. And now I've just I feel like that ending ruined it for me. It felt so much like a cop-out because I was expecting drama. I was expecting people catching on fire and screaming. So yeah, I'm not too sure what to feel at the moment. I'm very conflicted, and so I'm gonna go collect all of my thoughts and get back to you with some final thoughts on the matter. So I'm finally done with Malibu Rising, and here are my final thoughts. So first and foremost, the positives. Characters are very well written. I think that Taylor Jenkins Reid is very good at bringing the reader into the characters' heads and helping us see the point of view of the characters. And I think that's really good because obviously each and every one of the characters don't really see themselves as a bad person. But as I was saying, the author is really good at keeping the characters well-rounded. I especially love the first part of this book because it highlights how each and every one of them have flaws. Case in point, June. She starts out as like the sweet, naive character, and she obviously goes down a downward character development where she develops alcoholism and how her mental health has degraded over time. But at the same time, she was also a character that I couldn't hate despite that, because we see in her point of view, and honestly, don't shoot me for this, but it was a valid crash out, okay? Like, she was a single mom with 4 kids in the 60s. How insane is that? And then there's Nina, which I would say out of all of the characters in this book is the most Mary Sue-ish. Maybe a little bit too, but they have their own flaws, and how they acted were all justified by the experiences that they led. So it's all really well done, and I really think the author did that very, very well. But because she's so good at getting you into each character's heads, I feel like it served as a double-edged sword, just because the book is narrated in third person omniscient, and we do a lot of head jumping even when you think you're in a certain character's head. Like, for example, I would be reading Jay's point of view in the third person, and I fully think that we're in his head, and then suddenly he's talking to Hud, and then now I'm in Hud's head. So it gives me a bit of whiplash, because I'm kind of like, I thought I was in Jay's head, why am I in Hud's now? So that sort of thing was really trippy for me, and so I'm not sure I liked it too much. And another thing that I really liked, or that this book showed, was the sexism of the era. And you do not know how this book made me so thankful that I live in this day and age, because to need your husband's permission to get the locks changed and actually do anything. And I have a hot take. I do not despise Mick. And no, don't shoot me. Let me finish. I actually think he's a very well written character. So much so that I enjoyed despising him. Basically, Mick is so well written. You know, we can see how arrogant he's become, and you know how selfish, and just from the very beginning he was already giving red flags. And that was another thing that the author did very well, creating tension in at least in the first part of the book, and delivering on it at least in the first part of the book, because from the moment June and Mick met, you knew that he was gonna leave her. Or well, the moment he said he was a musician and trying to break into Hollywood and an entertainment industry, I knew it was going to be one of those rock star proclivity. Anyway, so now let's go to the negatives of the book, and they're quite numerous. Well, I really enjoyed the first part. It was in the second part all kind of unravels for me, because first of all, by the time we got into the second book, there were too many characters being introduced. And apparently many of them showed up in her other books, but I've never read her other books. So I was just there reading about these side characters and wondering why I'm reading about them and the significance of it, you know? Well, this adds to the second con, actually, because a lot of the things that the writer does, she's really good at, but it backfires really badly in the second half because, like I said, she was very good at creating tension. And from the very first page, I was anticipating a fire. I was anticipating a tragedy, and I was expecting the worst. And she created this tension, particularly in the second part, because this is where we focus on the house party and people coming. And so I could feel, as I was reading this, the tension of like, oh, everything's going to fall apart, and like a lot of people are gonna die, and everyone's high and everyone's drunk. So I was really at the edge of my seat because I was gripping onto this promise that I was made in the very beginning from reading the summary, really. But then it doesn't happen. The fire doesn't happen, or at least it doesn't happen the way I expected it to. And I full on thought that the introduction of these side characters served a purpose, you know, like introducing all of these characters. I thought it was a little bit, who are these people? But I was also anticipating that one of these people, or maybe a chain reaction between all of these characters, is gonna set off the fire. But none of that happens. I was very severely disappointed. I felt like a kid that was promised ice cream and was given ice, melted ice. That was the biggest disappointment for me. One thing you should know about writing a book is that when you promise a reader something, you have to deliver. Whether or not you want to subvert that promise is up to you and how that is executed. But the way the promise was delivered in this book was not it. All that to say, it was very anticlimactic, and I was left disappointed. My disappointment was also compounded by the fact that everything wrapped up too nicely. I mean, I felt like all of these resolutions, everyone's problems was going to be addressed while the house was burning. Okay, I expected more, not what we got. Okay. And I guess I wouldn't have minded it if there was a bigger climax to what we got, because I love happy endings. I will be the first to tell you, I would rather read happy endings in my books than tragedy. But yeah, it was all very poorly executed. So in the end, I gave the book 3.5 stars because it wasn't like I didn't enjoy it. The way the characters were written and how well-rounded they are definitely carried the book. But other than that, I don't know. It was an okay read. I guess I expected a lot more because Taylor Jenkins Reid is such a big author, and a lot of my friends love her. And they did tell me that Malibu Rising is the weakest out of all of her books. But for a very first introduction to her, yeah, it's very mid. Very mid. I also wanted to say that while I could relate to Nina's struggle being the eldest sibling and being a people pleaser, because I am also the same, and it's a constant fight to set your own boundaries. Because of the bloating in the book with all of these like different characters and stuff, it didn't feel very realistic in a sense, or at least I guess I need a bit more push and pull. Also, they have another sibling that just came out of the woodworks in the second book. I don't know. I feel like I would have been more attached to her if she had been introduced in the first part of the book. Yeah, I feel like that would have worked better because it didn't really work well as a twist. I don't know. My opinion. You could disagree. This has been very fun. My first ever reading vlog with you, and I hope you enjoyed it too. And I'll see you soon. Bye.